The Daily Dribble.
Welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast. Guys, as always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit. Joined here, we got the full squad back together. No need for the Pete Murray intro today. We're all feeling lively.
Pete Murray intro?
Last week, mate, the show.
Please tell me you tuned in.
No, I skipped the intro.
You skipped the intro, the best part.
I feel like you skipped the whole thing, to be honest with you.
I feel like that might have been on a little rain check mission there from you, Lee.
It'll be coming.
Welcome back, mate.
Appreciate it.
How are you?
Good. Ready for another big app?
Absolutely. They're all big apps. Joining us as well, Mr. Roy Hancock.
How are we going? Just quickly, I want to touch on a little story that Lee told me a few days ago. Lee got into a little bit of a altercation with someone the other day.
Wow, it's hardly an altercation.
Oh, really? A duster?
Wasn't brought on by Lee, but I thought Lee's bad boy persona has come into
hands.
No, I didn't.
But he hasn't actually gone and done anything. But someone has come up to Lee and wasn't.
I mean to tell a story.
Yeah,
it's about a 2-minute story.
That's all right.
Make it a condensed version.
Yeah, the highlight.
Me and my girlfriend Aisha were in Melbourne. It's about 11.
Oh, so you're abroad? Picking fights abroad.
Lee abroad.
It wasn't even picking fights. It was about 11 p.m. at night. We decided to go down to the 7-Eleven just to get something. We were a bit peckish.
Yeah, 7-Eleven.
Yeah. I was walking past, didn't even notice this guy on his park bench. And I heard, "Oh, what are you doing, Hoodie? What are you doing here?" And I just walked past, I just ignored him. And then I felt a massive shove on my shoulder. He shoved me out of the way.
You're kidding.
And I looked back and I didn't want to escalate things. So I was just like, okay, I'm getting out of your way. I'll just leave. And I didn't know if he was going to come up behind me and king hit me in the back of the head. So I just walked.
Was he? So he was like a homeless guy, was he?
He was a drunk old. I don't know if he was homeless, drunk
old.
He
was a questionable character.
Here's the question then. Could you have taken him?
Oh, well, the story keeps going. We go into the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
We come back out and know we have to walk past him. I'm a little shook up at this stage.
Undoubtedly.
And then we walk past him, get about 3-4 meters in front of him, and I hear, "Oh, you've come back for more." And I want to keep walking, but Aisha turns around and starts chirping at him and saying, "You've never been loved, and you're so lonely. You're a lonely old man." And then he was like, "Come over here," and she was like, "What are you gonna do?" And he was like, "I'll slap you." And we just kept walking. Went and got our kebab. Came back from getting our kebab, saw about 3-4 police cars. We were like, "This is for this guy." He wasn't on his park bench anymore, so we're like,
"It's in the paddy wagon."
Yeah,
he was right next to us without us knowing. Police grabbed him to detain him, and he was like wriggling his way out.
Yeah,
and then he ended up on the ground in like the fetal position as about 6 cops were over him. But you know how the cops get everything out of their pocket when they detain him.
Disarm.
He had a knife.
You beauty.
And a knife, so if we could have...
So ultimately, if Lee had have just taken a few steps forward, he might have not been here today. So we're very glad Lee's back, and he's had a big week. Jesus,
bloody hell! How's that for a start for the podcast? That's how you set the scene for a massive episode. I'm all for it, mate. It's nice to know that should danger arise, our resident bad boy will have things under control.
Yes.
Love it. Have it under control as in not getting stabbed.
Yeah. Yep. Interpret it how you want. You've got things well and truly under control. Guys, a massive episode in store today as we approach our little Christmas period, the most wonderful time of the year, is it not, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes. Absolutely. We're going to rip through some quick odds and ends where they're going to touch base on all the major NBA awards, MVP, Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, all those good awards, and give forth our front runner at the moment, as well as kind of a dark horse.
Quick little dark horse.
Yeah.
Yep.
So certainly looking forward to getting into that. Before we do so, though, guys, a big shout out to Stadium Scene and The Cover. Both those networks doing wonderful things for us and other content creators out there, not only helping us across Australia, the US, Canada, showcasing all of our work. We very much appreciate all their continued support. So, guys, be sure to check them out. Not only us, but all the other content that they have raging across their websites, doing tremendous things. So very much appreciated. Lads, let's get into some quick odds and ends here from me. I'm going to start with the news that Ja Morant is in line to receive a new signature shoe from Nike. Now, the question I wanted to pose off the back of this, with this shoe, now knowing Ja, knowing him, his playing style, everything of the kind, do you think it'll be a really flashy out there shoe? Or do you think maybe something a little more subtle? Because he's doing so much already on the court with, flamboyance and wowing and all the rest? Do you think maybe a little more of a toned down shoe?
No. You'd have to say flashy. He's the flashiest guy in the NBA, arguably.
Yep.
What did he wear? I think he wears like Kyrie's, maybe Kobe's, and they're both flashy. Well, not anymore.
The New Balance Kyries.
The NBA 2K
It surprised me very much so if he came out with an NBA 2K default shoe.
Yes. And yourself, Ro, you think something with a fair bit of glitz and glamour?
I think when you get your first signature shoe, you sort of have to incorporate some of your playing style and some of your personality into that shoe. But in saying that, you still have to create the shoe to the point where they're going to sell. So you don't want to create them to be every shoe style to be absolutely ridiculous and out there. So I think he'll incorporate definitely some flashiness, but I think knowing Jar, there's going to be a really good looking shoe. I'm glad to see, and well deserved as well.
Very well deserved, doing tremendous things on and off the court now. So the next era of NBA shoes coming to you soon.
Looking forward to it.
We'll certainly, when they come out, we'll have to put something on the socials and get everyone's take on them. But certainly looking forward to seeing that.
Yep.
The NBA during the week announced they're going to be introducing a new trophy. Now, this is going to go for the team with the best regular season record throughout the league. At the moment, the Celtics would be taking it out. But what do you guys think of this? Like, for me, I think, to be honest, they're just creating an award for anything and everything now. But I think it's almost going to put a bit of an additional pressure on these teams. You know, you're crowned the number one seed. There's pressure with that already. But then you're being awarded a trophy for it. I tell you what, you wouldn't want to be bundled out in the first round by an 8th seed, would you? It would look pretty horrific, and that trophy would certainly lose a lot of its actual status and credibility once it gets going through the first few years.
You can certainly see that happening as well, can't you? You can see these. We've seen in the past teams like, for example, Utah Jazz before Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert left, being an extremely solid regular season team. Even like the Philadelphia 76ers, and when the playoffs came, they fell away, and to receive a trophy for the best regular season record just seems absurd to me. And it's not what
despite your team getting it at the moment.
That's despite my team getting it. I think this wouldn't be the only trophy I think we're going to win this year, but I think it's a bit ridiculous. But
said with a real swagger there, Ro.
A little bit of a swagger, but Lee,
just another award for these guys, especially at the end of the season. Their mind isn't on reaching the top of the league. Their mind is straight on the playoffs. I didn't read much into this.
Do you think though maybe especially in its first year, it's not going to warrant too much credibility, but once it builds up a little bit of status, a little bit of if they had a reward attached to it, do you think it might when there's teams the top 3 teams that are all pretty close together, do you think it would give that little more competitiveness to round out the season?
Not maybe really, to be honest with you. I don't think so. I think at that stage of the season, particularly if you're in a top 3 seed within your conference, the last thing you're thinking about is, will I be
it in the 81st game of the season, just 48 minutes for everyone.
The last thing they're ting about. I think they're thinking about the hardware at the end of the year. So
I think whoever's looking at it when they win it is looking at it the same way we'd look at a cross-country participation award.
It's just not
saying it's a participation, but it's like it's just going in the bin as soon as you get home.
If you're not first, you're last, aren't you?
Exactly.
There you go.
Absolutely. No true words ever spoken. Fellas, a couple of quick injuries here from me. The first one being Obi Toppin from the Knickerbockers there. Set to miss 2 to 3 weeks with a left knee issue. Now, he's averaged nearly 8 points a game across 18 minutes this season. Certainly hope, just the only real talking point for this, a knee issue. They haven't specified exactly what it is, but certainly hope it doesn't hinder his hops. Because I tell you what, he can get up for a big guy, can't he?
Bloody oath again. What have you made of Obi Toppin's career to date? For me, yes, we know he's got an extremely good vertical. He's a big bustling. You wouldn't want to take a charge from him, but I feel like to date it's been a little bit underwhelming.
Flashes. That's what I think. He's shown flashes with no real consistency up until this point, partly due to situation, partly due to him. I think he's got all the tools. And I think, we've seen with the Knicks this year, Fournier's just about well out of the team. There's more time for these guys like McBride, Toppin as such. Grimes, I think they're trying to usher in this new younger wave
Mm.
of New York Knicks. I think he's got the pieces there. I don't know whether he's going to put it all together.
Do you sort of see it in the same way, similar to Aaron Gordon? Like the fact that these guys are.
SG's been on.
Oh,
He's
but
on this season.
I'm not talking about this season. I'm talking about in the lead up in his first few years.
Yeah,
I think a guy like Obi Toppin or Aaron Gordon, they've got all this hype surrounding them because they're obviously athletic beasts and, you know, their highlight reels are insane. But it takes a little while for these guys to don't get going. You know, after a little while, people start to doubt them, like me to a certain extent. But I really hope he can get over the injury and turn it around.
Anything from Toppin from you there, Lee?
When I think of Obi Toppin going to the Knicks, you just think of that 2020 draft class and what they potentially could have picked up. To me, he's just another draft, not a bust, but definitely an L, I'd say.
Underwhelmer.
Well, there you go. A guy who's certainly not an L, but it's an L for the team he's playing on. The Atlanta Hawks, DeJounte Murray is set to miss 2 weeks on the sideline with a left ankle sprain. This goes hand in hand with the fact that they're also at the moment without John Collins and DeAndre Hunter. Now, with turmoil as well surrounding Trae Young and Nate McMillan, all this injury news, are the Hawks in possibly a bit of a free fall at the moment? Went down today to the Nets. How do you see them playing out?
Chemistry-wise, I think they're in a bit of a ditch right now. And they're not the most humble team either, are they? Like, I don't really love watching the Hawks because I just see them as a bunch of arrogant guys on the court.
Do they somewhat need a personality?
A little Kendrick Lamar to come in and say, sit down, bitch, be humble.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I can sort of see that. But yeah, it's slightly concerning for Atlanta. What are they? Do we know where they're sitting at the moment in the standings?
Bro, you know what? That is a fantastic question.
And you've got it right there.
Currently sitting 7th at 13-13. As I said, off the back of their loss against the Nets today. For me, it's been a little bit disappointing, I think, the way Trae Young has... And the way the whole DeJounte Murray coming in has actually worked. It looked as if there was going to be a lot more Trae off ball, and it was working quite well. That's completely disappeared the last couple of weeks with him just, going bananas again in terms of usage. They just haven't found that real rhythm and chemistry at the time of speaking. I don't know. I think it's certainly helped having Bogdanovic back. He had a stellar game today, 30-plus points, but there's just something not quite firing for this team at the moment. It's on the court and it's also off the court at the moment. And
when those two are firing together, I'm talking Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, we've clearly seen in the early parts of the season that's correlated to wins for the Atlanta Hawks.
One of, if not the best backcourts in the league, would you say?
For sure. Yeah.
Agree with that, Lee?
I'd agree with that.
There you go. Agree with that, Roy?
Yes.
There you go. 3 men on board, 3 wise monkeys sitting in the chair today. Fellas, let's move ahead.
Dribble.
And go to our awards, front runners and dark horses. Now, as I said, we've got all the major award categories. As I say, week in and week out, the broken record that I am. Be sure to let us know, did we hit the nail on the head with these ones or were we missing the mark? Would love to hear who you guys had for these award categories and who your dark horses were in particular, because I'm sure they'll differ greatly from ours.
Absolutely.
Lads, let's start with the top gong from a league perspective, the NBA champs. Who have you got, Lee? Who is your front runner at the moment?
Right now, and it's not a front runner at the moment. It's a prediction, isn't it? We're just saying.
At this point of the season, who do you think is going to win the championship?
Okay. Run your race, son. You do you.
And I know postseason, a lot of changes happen, whether it be roster changes, injuries, whatever. But right now, I don't see a world where the winner doesn't come from those top 2 guys in the East, and I'm saying the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. If we're going to 7 games, everyone's healthy on both teams, I'm taking Milwaukee.
Yep.
Okay.
And fair call as well.
Giannis has been there's nothing more we can say about Giannis. Look, he's great. Yeah, that's about it. Sorry, but I think some people overlook the greatness because it's happening right in front of our eyes, but this guy is top level. And then the supporting cast around him, I say Bucks.
I think big shout. I've said the Bucks as well as my front runner. I was very close to saying the Celtics, especially off the back of recency bias of their absolute demolition of the Suns yesterday, or the day before, should I say. That was just carnage.
Absolutely.
I think now with Middleton back, Drew Holiday performing at a level we haven't really seen in recent times, especially on the scoring front. What do you do with Giannis? That supporting cast, as you mentioned, Lee, Brooke Lopez, Bobby Portis. Shout out to Javon Carter and Bocham there. All these guys stepping up in absences there. I think, I expect offensively and defensively, now that everyone's back fit and healthy, especially on the offensive side, with Middleton coming back, they're going to be very, very hard to stop. And I just think, I think the defining factor between those two teams is Giannis. I don't really know who you throw at him from a Celtics perspective, who can actually stop him.
Yeah, it's always a team effort, isn't it, when it comes to Giannis? No one guy can ever really contain him.
The Bucks get the nod for me. I wonder which way you're going.
I've had to go with the Beantown boys. Obviously, the Boston Celtics. And, I can't disagree with anything that you guys have said as well, because in my mind, Milwaukee is the only other team that I see winning the championship this year.
Yeah.
But I think the Boston Celtics, and one key contributor, particularly on defense, is Rob Williams. And we haven't even had the chance to see Rob this season. And we're still playing at an absolute elite level, to the point where we're absolutely demolishing other real contenders such as the Suns.
To be honest, it could have been I think it ended up, was it 29 points?
Yeah.
They were up by like 45 at one point. Yeah. They turned into garbage time. Could have well been 50 points.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was keeping up to date at work with the score, and I was like, this isn't real. This is a flashback of Game 7 against the Mavs.
That's what I was about to say. It's very reminiscent of that. And I'll tell you what, that again showed real holes in that Phoenix Suns roster. The fact that they can allow...
They got waxed by the Mavs only a couple of days ago as well.
Yeah, real holes. But Boston Celtics, and we think of guys like Jason Tatum, who's taken the next step to become a superstar in the league. Jaylen Brown's been absolutely incredible. But as I said before, I'm also thinking about the guys who aren't out there, and arguably our biggest defensive cog in Rob Williams not being out there so far, and we're still... holding that number one seed and demolishing other real good contenders. Everything I've seen from the Celtics so far, green glasses on or not, I think they're the team to beat come the playoffs.
Tell you what, it'd be handy if you got for that back end of the season. I don't know what the timeline is, but Gallinari coming back shooting a three ball off the bench wouldn't hurt either.
That would be extremely handy. Yep.
There you go, Ro. Kick on with your dark horse, the NBA championship.
Now, this is a team that I've always had a fair bit of faith in, even when they haven't been at full strength, and that's the Denver Nuggets. So far this season, they're sitting in the 4th position, 15-10. Had a lot of their key soldiers back, which has obviously helped. But I think they're time after time, season after season. Yes, they haven't made it to the finals, but they continue to impress, and they arguably continue to go under the radar, even in the regular season. They're not given the same sort of attention and praise as some of these other big teams with big players, multiple big players in the West and the East. So
isn't it funny that we kind of doubt a team that has the reigning back-to-back MVP?
This is the insane thing, isn't it? Like, how can you continue to look past a team which contains someone who is very arguably one of, if not the best player and big man in the league on his day? So I think the Denver Nuggets are a sneaky one to look out for come the playoffs, particularly at full strength. I wouldn't want to be coming up against them if I was an opposition team, that's for sure.
Amen, Lee.
I wanted to give it to the team that's top of the West right now, the Pelicans.
Just knocked off the Suns, 17-8, I believe. They're half a game clear of the Grizzlies now.
But I had to put on my logical cap, and I put the Cleveland Cavaliers in that spot. Donovan Mitchell himself, he's been in like 39 playoff games. He's got playoff experience. K-Love's got a chip. They've got these young guns just hungry for the chip. I'm going Cavs.
Do you feel they're a year off, or do you think this could be their?
So I think that's why they're my dark horse. Okay. This could be their year.
You wouldn't be surprised to see them shock people come the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. Okay. I have gone the Pelicans now. You could argue that they're not a dark horse just for the fact they are top of the West now on a roll. I think that with that win today, is a 6-game win streak now, I believe. It's 5 or 6.
I'd go to say anyone that isn't Boston or Milwaukee is a dark horse. Is that
well to a certain extent? I agree. I agree that the Pelicans are a dark horse, regardless of if they're first in the West.
I kind of still put. I think if you were to do like a top tier, you would certainly have Bucks, Celtics. and you could maybe argue the Warriors or the Suns
at their
even.
best.
But I think just because they're not spoken about with that top tier contenders, I've said they're a dark horse. When everybody's fit and healthy, like they beat the Suns today without Ingram, without Herb Jones, been without those two for a little while, just racking up wins. But when everyone's fit and healthy, and I think a really undervalued part of it is their depth. Dyson Daniels coming into the starting lineup looking great. Big shout out to Jose Alvarado, dropping, what was it?
38
points the other day against, forgive me, who was it against?
I can't actually remember who it was.
Nevertheless,
against, but he went off.
He went bananas. I think if he can keep refining his game and he doesn't need to score 38 a game, but if he's putting in points, contributing offensively as well as defensively, their overall roster looks tremendous and is going to be a very, very tough out.
I'll tell you what, just touching on Jose Alvarado, he really proved himself because do you remember in one of his first games, he was mic'd up and someone on defense didn't know much about him and he said, "Can this guy score?" And Alvarado says, "I can score."
He can.
And bloody oath, he can score.
Mate, he 38. Was money the other day. Money, the three ball was just unrelenting. It was awesome to see. It was super fun and they checked him out with 30 seconds to go, and the crowd, they had like a chant going.
I can imagine they would have.
Or something. I can't remember how it went, but he's
a bit of a cult hero.
Oh no, Jose, you know,
right,
classic soccer chant.
Gotcha.
But awesome stuff. So the Pelicans get the nod.
I like that.
Let's move ahead to the top gong from a player perspective, the MVP league.
It's hard for me to look past Giannis this year in terms of the most valuable player to their team. Just the person who impacts winning the most, I think, is Giannis.
I'm probably back in contention for this award after almost maybe a little bit of voter fatigue.
Yeah, he's back in contention now. I personally think he's the best player in the world right now, but there's definitely an argument. And it's a very short list, I'd say. It's between Giannis and Luka.
The bookies would disagree at the moment.
But keep going.
Who are you putting in, Jokic?
No, I know who you're going to say. And I won't say
Jason Tatum as the best player in the world
as an MVP.
I said the best player.
Okay, sorry.
Gotcha. Is between Giannis and Luka. But most valuable, I'm going Giannis.
Okay, I'm going to go the Don. Currently has the Mavs sitting at 7th, yet they're only 3 games back at first. And I saw an interesting thing the other day, actually, that was, so last year the Nuggets finished 6th, and, Jokic won the MVP, should I say. The year following, for a team that finishes lower, normally the year after, it goes to the team that finishes first. So the last team to finish 6th and win an MVP, Russell Westbrook, the year later, James Harden, with the number 1 seed there, took out the MVP. It just kind of feels like they almost have a year where, standings don't matter as much. Someone a little bit lower, and then the year later it becomes to the forefront again. So a big part will be the Mavs record. Only 3 games back, I said at first. Averaging 33 points, 8.5 rebounds, 8.5 assists, plus 1.7 steals a game. I don't think there's probably any player who's asked to do more for their team single-handedly.
Agree.
You couldn't actually burden him with any more weight on his shoulders. He's passing with flying colours at the minute. Certainly handy that the supporting cast, Timmy Hardaway Jr., especially since coming into the lineup for Reggie Bullock there, has certainly helped ease that a little bit. But, these are truly video game numbers. So I think this is the year after knocking on the door and showing his potential the last few years that Luka claims the throne as the best player within the league.
Here's my argument against Luka, just real quick. He probably is playing the best bowl of his life this season. In saying that, and this is just from my perspective, I don't know what's happening inside the locker rooms or on the bench because he's not mic'd up. But I think his team chemistry is almost at an all-time low.
Really?
If I was on the Mavs, I would be absolutely shitting my pants if I got a turnover because he's
an angry boy.
He goes off his head.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the one where Maxi Kleber turned the ball over, but he went havoc.
You see, I almost think a little part of that's good, just because we saw them knock off the Suns last year, took it up to the Warriors. I think they genuinely think they're a title contender now. So they're setting a higher bar for themselves, and Luka's leading that.
I've heard people compare him to James Harden, like when he was in that
That's
kind
Houston.
of ISO bowl.
Let's call him more of a Michael Jordan. A real stickler who's going to absolutely tear your ass apart should you muck up.
And it also depends, I guess, who his teammates are, because yes, you can have high standards, but you also have to have the teammates who are willing to take on board that criticism.
But
that
it's
he's
not
giving
criticism. It looks like on-court bullying.
Well, let's go to before we go to Ray. Let me
report him to
pose
HR.
this question to you guys from your own perspective. If you like I currently play sports, and we've all played sports across our lives. How do you tackle, if mistakes on the field, be it teammates or yourself? Do you like hammer people, railroad them, or how do you are you just going to let it be?
I think you need to be one of the top guns to be able to have a go at people if they do something wrong, and I can't say that I was one of those top guns, and that's me being honest.
No little Tom Cruise number here.
Not that I was the guy getting ripped into, but I wasn't great or terrible at any sport.
I do agree with that, because imagine if, like we're saying, Luka's doing this, but imagine if it was, for example, I don't know, Kleber going to people and absolutely tearing into them. You wouldn't receive the same sort of feedback, I wouldn't have thought. But me personally, I feel like I'm a bit more chilled out of a character, so I'm not as invested. But
I'm a real one who just absolutely rips myself. Like, not so much teammates, but if we had a practice game for soccer last night, and it was like an intra-club friendly, and I tell you what, if there was a swear jar, it would have been filled up very, very quickly. Just insults at myself. I just do my nuts. So there you go, right?
Self-critical.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Yep.
I'm probably going to go home and beat myself up if this podcast doesn't turn out the way I want it
to. Or the laptop, one or the other.
Ro, which way are you going? I think we know.
Big boy Jason Tatum. I don't want this to become
This guy, he said he's not wearing green glasses. I'm hearing a lot of green coming down range.
There's a bit of a green tinge to them, let's be honest. But you can't blame me, can you? Like, at the end of the day, Jason Tatum has gone from like a really solid star of the league to, I think this year he's elevated himself into superstar status. And
the bookie's favourite, I believe, at the moment.
Favourite, is he? Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me. I knew he'd be top 3 for sure. But, you look at the Celtics record at the moment, 21-5. It's been largely on the back of himself and Jaylen Brown in that Robin role. But the other thing with Jason Tatum, which makes him such a good candidate for MVP, is the fact that he's so durable. Like, he hardly misses a game. And any given night, you know what you're going to get from him. Most of the time, it's resulting in a win. The other thing is, look, at the start of the season, I said Giannis MVP, and I certainly think that's well within possibilities. But I think just in terms of the narrative, I think they might look at someone potentially new who hasn't won it before, particularly if the Celtics record is as impressive as it is now. They're looking on track
for 60-plus wins at the moment.
Yeah.
If they get that and he keeps performing at that level, I tell you what, it's going to be hard to deny him.
I agree, 100% agree.
Not that I think this question that I'm about to ask decides who the MVP is, but and it did push my Giannis MVP prediction to the forefront. But out of the 3 names we mentioned, what guy would you want on your team? And that's why I'm saying it pushed me to pick Giannis, because that's who impacts winning and is the most valuable to me. But that's not saying, like, I completely get your predictions, and
for me, Giannis out of those
three. I think Giannis as well, and I think that just comes back to the fact that you said, and I think we agree with Giannis is the best player in the world.
Yeah, true.
MVP slightly different, things are judged on that, but I think we certainly, I certainly agree that Giannis is the best player in the world.
True. Okay.
Dark horses, quickly, fellas. What did you have, Roy?
I had as my dark horse Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns. Now, he's a guy who's probably going to get overlooked a little bit, but he's once again he's as solid as they come, contributing to the Phoenix Suns 16-10 record in the West.
Contributing to them getting blown out to smithereens the last couple of games.
Can't be on every night, mate. Can't be on every night. But he's been on most nights, and it's been contributing to, the Phoenix Suns, again, really solid record. And that's also been without Chris Paul for a lot of games throughout the season so far.
Going to ask you that. Do you think it hampers? Do you think it helps or hinders his chances of MVP with Chris Paul in the lineup?
Probably. Look, it's a two-way thing because
you think he's going to get better looks, maybe.
He might get the role. Yeah, and I think the Phoenix Suns will probably have more chance of winning more games with CP3 out there. Yep. But he's more noticeable when CP3 isn't out there because he's so heavily relied upon. Good question, though.
Thank you. Lee, who's your MVP dark horse?
You'll like this one, Nick, I think.
Will I?
I've gone AD.
Yeah, good.
But in saying that, I think they'd need to reach top 8. And this, I'm not saying they need to get the play in. I don't think they could go 9 or 10. They need to reach top 8, preferably top 6. So they'd have to change a lot.
They were looking all right before their East Coast trip. They've lost 3 on the bounce, but they'd really started to claw things back.
He's matching Giannis's 2018-19 MVP numbers right now with 28, 13, and 2 with 2.5 blocks a game. Yep. He's honestly proved me completely wrong. Because every time I envisioned AD post-injury, I just see him on the floor in the fetal position with his hand around his ankles.
Yes.
I didn't think he was going to be a dud by any means, but I never thought he'd come back with the intensity and the efficiency that his potential once held. And honestly, from what I've seen, he has come back with both of those things.
I just want to see him stick, like even the other day against the Raptors. Goddamn, Michael Jordan played with the flu game. Iconic. That could have been an iconic moment for AD, but he pussied out after 8 minutes and we got our asses handed by the Cavs.
What was he doing out there to begin with?
Exactly. So
I honestly think there's something more to it, to be honest.
You reckon? Conspiracy theory.
Big pussy. But yeah, I agree. Like when he's playing and when he's locked in, he is one of the best in the league. It's just a question of playing for him.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say, sorry, just
no.
Is it fair to say that NBA fans in general wrote AD off far too early? Or do you think, given the fact that the Lakers were sort of seemingly heading down and his injuries were getting on top of him, do you think it was fair at the time to perhaps say, this guy might be, past it before he's even reached his prime?
I think he's been overrated because like he's certainly, crushing it now, but across his career, he was named the NBA top 75 players. Top 75 players in history. In history. And he's had a real career hampered by injuries, hampered by, they got that title in the bubble. But really, I think he's almost been, overhyped a little bit. He's starting to prove it now, though.
Maybe the move to LA also contributed to that.
I think it was fair to not completely write him off as a dud, but write him off, like I said, not thinking he'd come back with the same efficiency. That's why I wrote him off.
Well, I've got as my dark horse, I've got SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the OKC Thunder, a bloke we've spoken about quite a bit over the last few weeks. 31 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 block, 1.7 steals a game, and shooting 92.5% from the free throw line. The team's currently 12th with a record of 11-14. It only, I think with the Pelicans winning today, they're only 6 games back at first. So there's a real logjam throughout the Western Conference there. If by some miracle this team can make the playoffs, I tell you what, he's certainly putting them on his back at the moment. Those stats are phenomenal and has really asserted himself as one of the premier players within the league. So I'm loving what he's doing. I could envision a world in which he gets a little bit of love.
Me too.
He's certainly not my pick, but a dark horse pick nevertheless.
Do you think, because I did have him in contention, but for as well as he's playing, do you think he'd need to go to even a higher level?
What are we now, 31?
Like another level?
31, 5 and 6. If he could get to 33, 7 and 7, tell you what, that's Luka numbers.
My read on it is I think he could win the MVP as a dark horse playing at his current level, but the OKC team record overall has to improve to the point where I reckon if they were in that top 8, he would be a considerable chance, but at the moment, dark horse for a reason, but
Well, there's still a lot to get through. We'll push forth with the DPOY. Ro.
DPO, why? I've still got Giannis as my decoy this season.
Yep.
I think I had him heading into this season. I guess the only thing that could probably take it away is the fact that Brook Lopez has been so incredible on the defensive end.
I didn't have either, but I said that I think Lopez and Giannis might cancel each other out a little bit.
They might do. But I think he's still an incredible defensive player. And at the end of the day, I think as good as Brook's been, he's not going to get anywhere near the attention that Giannis is when it comes to this award, particularly if at the end of the season, which we're highly expecting, the Milwaukee Bucks are like a top 2 to 3 team in the East. I think it goes towards the likelihood of him winning that award. And I guess from my perspective, going into the season, choosing him as the decoy, and then what I've seen so far, there hasn't been anything that really indicates that he's still not a legitimate chance to win it. So I've stuck true.
You could see a world in which he is this season an NBA champ, an MVP, DPOY, Finals MVP. You could see him collecting the whole lot, couldn't you?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
certainly not outside the realms of possibility. I've gone OG Anunoby as mine. You have as well?
I do, yeah.
Leads the league in steals, 2.3 a game. His length and athleticism, it's really enables him to guard 1 through 5. I think not only this season, but moving forward for the next five years plus, he's certainly going to be in contention for this award. Currently the 4th best defense within the Eastern Conference, East only there. But likewise, I think just for that fact of Giannis and Brook cancelling out each other a little bit, I've gone with OG.
Yep.
And
even like, I know this is decoy, but even offensively, he's taken that step this year.
He has.
With Pascal going down, he's really been that main guy offensively and defensively. But I'll go to my my dark horse. And it's a guy who reminds me of OG a bit, and it'd be silly if I didn't put him here. I'm going Herb, and I'm not going to say anything.
You love a bit of Herb.
You can go to our TikTok and watch my reason.
He doesn't need further explanation, he says.
He's back with old Herb.
I watch the TikTok. I think I took about one breath.
You were spitting fire.
Lee's gone, look at my previous receipts and you'll find everything you need.
I'm not relaying my information.
No, there you go. That's a fair shout. So you're sticking with that there.
Don't waste your breath.
I've gone for Rudy Gobert. Now, a multiple-time winner of the award, has started so poorly on this end and this Wolves team as a whole that I think everyone would have written him off. Hence, I've given him the dark horse label, as I said, despite being a multiple-time winner. I think this next phase without Cat is going to be the telling point behind that. Just feels like, he'll be able to establish his dominance, being the only kind of legit big man offensively and defensively. And it just feels like it's been a real ironing out period so far. They're still above 500, but it hasn't looked as good as what I thought it would. The games I've seen with Cat and Gobert in the lineup together, it's really looked disjointed.
It has.
Really disjointed. So I could see a world in which Gobert kind of finds a little bit more of his feet now with Cat out and could charge up the standings.
I like that. And I feel a little bit, I don't know about this, because my dark horse is your favourites for the decoy.
What, OG?
OG. Yeah. I think he's had a really good season, OG, and I think he's going to be in consideration for the decoy. But I also saw him as a guy who might be on the outside of winning that award.
Yeah.
Not sure what the odds are looking like at the moment, but I guess he's probably shortened massively lately.
2 or 3.
I still think there's a few others ahead of him, but particularly this season, it seems like both on the offensive and defensive side of things, he's been incredible.
Yep.
I think he's probably averaged close to 3 steals. He's probably averaging about 2.5 or thereabouts steals per game.
OG?
Yeah.
2.3.
2.3 Yeah. So
close enough to 3.
Round it up.
It's mates rates.
But I think he's my dark horse. I don't see him as a legitimate chance up with Giannis, but I still see him as definitely contending for it.
I don't blame you for giving him dark horse, but then I look back on like Marcus Smart and he went up against Giannis, so I don't see why.
I feel like he also got a big bump from Rob Williams.
Yeah,
I feel like that was a Celtics award as opposed to a Marcus Smart award.
It was.
Oh, but he took it as a Marcus Smart award. Remember the robe?
He did. He ran with it.
I'm not a massive Marcus. God, I won't drag on him actually.
Well, how about while you're running your trap there, Lee, you kick on with Rookie of the Year.
I've gone. Who else are we going to go but Paolo Banchero? I absolutely love these rookies that come in, to a pretty dog-awful team, establish
Dog
themselves.
Sorry,
Dog-
dog awful. He's mixed it up. He's gone. I've said god awful too often. Dog awful's the new one.
But just they establish this confidence, and they, like we said, he's been directing traffic. He's been the guy leading that team from a leadership standpoint, and also on court standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't see a world, unless he gets injured, that Paolo doesn't win.
Yeah, he's missed come back during the week after missing 7 games due to a left ankle sprain. Hasn't missed a beat since returning, averaging 22 points, 6.5 rebounds, nearly 4 assists on the season. The only struggle at the moment is the 3 ball, 24% on 3.5 attempts a game, but you'd certainly expect that to jump next season. Often see rookies struggle with the 3 ball. But as we've said time and time again on the show, you know, all of us, he is a grown man. He's a goddamn grown man, and he's bullying some of these players within the league. Yeah, he's got superstar written all over him, this guy. So I don't see a world in which he gets knocked off.
No, I'm with you. 3 out of 3, and it doesn't really require much further explanation. He's almost a shoo-in to win it, even if he misses another, 10 games or so, he's still a shoo-in.
Bloody oath, good stuff. All right, lads, let's go with the dark horse for this one. I might kick us off. I've gone with the Hawks' AJ Griffin.
Oh, I love that.
Now, he's seen a bigger uptick in minutes and responsibility lately. These injuries are certainly helping his case. He's displayed a real composure and hunger that kind of surpasses what you'd expect of a 19-year-old. Averaging 9.6 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, but certainly expect that to trend upwards now that he's shown his competency. But yeah, he's certainly a guy who, you look at Banchero, you look at probably Mathurin as the two who are, I would say, pretty comfortably leading the race at the moment. But with, as I said, with more minutes and responsibility, AJ Griffin could start to make his way up the standings. So he is my dark horse.
And I'm glad you mentioned him because he's a guy who, with all the hype surrounding guys like Paolo Banchero and Benedict, he's a guy who probably hasn't got as much hype surrounding him, but he's been extremely solid this year, and I really like that.
That's the word, solid, isn't it? That's a good word for him.
I'm going to actually take him too, actually. I had Benedict, but he's not really dark horse, is he? Because
all aboard the train.
Yeah. Control C, Control V.
I'm going to take AJ. He was one of my pre-draft looks at that I had. I can't remember the segment name, but I've been pretty high on AJ. I'd love to see his plus minus though, because every time I watch him, he's making some contributions when he's on the floor. You're just checking now.
I'll pull that up for you, buddy. And then you just give us a little bit of filler content.
That game winner, I can't remember who it was against, but the buzzer beater game winner where Trae Young threw the alley oop and he scored the layup.
Isn't it good when we have those like pre-season like draftees to look out for? And you mentioned one of these guys, and turns out that they actually turn into a legitimately, like as we were saying before, a solid player, as opposed to being one of these guys who seem to be a bust straight from the get-go.
So, at a guess,
Denny, don't get me started.
God damn, Advocate.
You're picking it.
At a guess, do you think he's plus or minus?
Oh, you'd have to be plus, right?
Have a guess what you think it is.
I'd say plus like 7.
Plus 7? That's huge.
I think he would be a plus, but probably not a plus, maybe 2.
You want to know what? You're both idiots. He's minus 1.5.
Oh, okay. Well,
and you'd attribute a bit of that, quite a bit, for playing with the second unit, of course.
Understandable.
But I think he's really showed some winning plays, some really good heads-up plays.
Like it's a reason. There's a reason they bring him on in the latter end of the fourth.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
And as I said, with injuries now, should get more roles and responsibilities. Ro, who did you have as your dark horse?
I have Jaden Ivey from the Detroit Pistons. He's shown really good glimpses. And
poison.
To be honest with you, like I think after Paolo Banchero, there's a fair bit of daylight, even between him and Benedict Mathurin.
There is a lot of daylight, isn't there?
There really is. So it's sort of hard to come up with a dark horse, but I've really been excited by Jaden Ivey this season, and he's a guy who I don't know if he'll turn into a Ja Morant player, but goodness me, he's shown signs that he can absolutely cause havoc for the opposition team, like Ja Morant would for his opposition as well.
Both their rookies, Ivy and Jalen Duran, have looked solid. Really solid, especially Duran. I think he's the youngest He was the youngest rookie, wasn't
I think he
he?
was.
I believe he
yeah.
was.
Yep.
The youngest player in the league at the moment, I believe.
Doesn't look it.
He
Christ.
doesn't look
Big
it.
boy.
And his ability on the offensive boards has been a real staple mark through the first 25 games of the season. So good things happening in Motor City.
Tell you who I see in Jalen Duran. I see early Dwight Howard, actually.
There is a bit about that. There is a bit about
It's
that.
the way he moves, the way he puts the ball in the basket. I see it.
Very good. Ro, you might push forth with your sixth man of the year.
Sixth man of the year, I've got your boy, Nick, Russell Westbrook from the Los Angeles Lakers.
Look at the smile. I'm like the cat that ate the canary, aren't I?
I think, look, the move to the bench is, we spoke about it even prior to the season beginning. We said that this move to the bench has to happen. And apart from a few recent losses, like, it was looking really good for the Lakers, him coming off the bench. He seemed happy again. He seemed like he was enjoying his basketball.
Triple-double today, might I just say.
Triple-double,
In a loss versus Philly.
Yep.
A little triple-double off the bench.
I think, to be honest, at the very minute, I think Russell Westbrook has a fair bit of daylight between him and second in sixth man of the year.
Well,
I'm really happy that they made that change for him to go to the bench.
Big play, wasn't it? I've gone as my pick, Christian Wood of the Dallas Mavericks, playing 26 minutes a game, averaging nearly 17 points, nearly 8 rebounds, an assist and a half, 56% from the field and 40% from three. Is a plus 1.7 when he's on the court, coming off the bench a lot of the time, getting good minutes. So his relationship and chemistry with Luka has really stood out for me since coming over there from the Rockets. Really developed a really strong pick and roll combination there. So I certainly I've got him as my pick at the moment.
Yep, like that.
Now, like I was saying to you off air, I don't have a six man, so I'll make.
And why is that, Lee? Just slipped the mind?
No, it wasn't in the group chat. It wasn't in the group chat.
Do you think this is a made up award? Not a real.
No, I just copied it from it. Okay, but I've got to ask. Benedict is coming off the bench, isn't he? I think he is. And if that's the case, I'm putting him as my sixth man because he's averaging this season he's averaging 18, 3.
But he'll have that. He already had month on month so far. He's going like this. He's going, and there's always that rookie drop off. You think he can sustain this such a high level?
I think so. I'll put him in my sixth man, and I'll follow it with my dark horse. I'm just going to put Russ in there. Yeah, because he's been great too.
Well, I went Russ as my dark horse, and it feels stupid because you're right. He probably, if you were to look at the odds, would probably be the favourite. Said that it needed to happen for so long. Him off the bench, and now, I think the big difference. This is an award. The MVP normally has storylines and things behind it. Sixth man doesn't. No. Russ actually has the narrative and the storyline set. A guy who didn't want to come off the bench, made the switch, is embracing it, playing at an incredible level, has gone from an MVP to possibly a sixth man of the year, averaging 15 points, 5.5 rebounds, 7.5 assists, whilst bringing much needed energy off the bench. Probably should have had him as my front runner. I've gone dark horse, but loving what he's doing, and it was very much needed for the Lakers.
Has the MVP won the sixth man of the year before?
There was one, I believe it was Bill Walton.
Good. I'm glad you've done your research because I had no idea and I didn't think it had happened before. But
that's a big pull.
That is a huge pull. That's a huge pull. Well, look, my sixth man of the year favourite and my sixth man dark horses sort of coincided with yours.
Oh, very good.
But I've got Christian Wood as my dark horse. I think he's been really solid off the bench. But as I said before, I think just for the simple fact that in my eyes, I think Russell Westbrook's a fair bit ahead in the six man predictions. He would be my dark horse at this point.
Very good. Excellent. Ro, what have you got for most improved player?
Most improved, I've got our boy from OKC, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yep.
My goodness, from one season to the next has he elevated? He was a really exciting player to watch in the past, but he's gone to like superstar level this year.
He's gone to near MVP level.
He's gone to near MVP level this season, and we certainly weren't. I certainly wasn't expecting this kind of increase in his performance, but I also wasn't expecting the OKC Thunder as a whole to elevate themselves off the back of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because I think if the OKC Thunder have been honest with themselves, that they'll, and particularly once Chet went down, they'd probably be thinking, look, we're going to be out of contention for at least this season and the next few seasons going forward. But no, Shai Gilgeous at this very moment is put them to the point where like they're still at a respectable level. And you know, at the end of the day, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has elevated himself into legitimate superstar contention.
I tell you what, it makes that Paul George trade look pretty ugly, doesn't it? Giving up him, everything they get, like in terms of the assets they gave up in Shea and whatever else, it is aging very, very poorly.
How's Stevie Ballmer?
Stevie Ballmer, if he had any hair, he would have ripped the remains of it out. Good thing he's bald. Stevie Baldmer. Classic. Good one.
You don't have anyone else, do you?
Yes, I do.
Do you? Come on.
I was nearly going to put him in SGA. I've gone Laurie Markkinen.
Okay.
I said his time going into the season. I said his time with the Finnish team could be a catalyst, and that it has been. Look at him go. He's averaging 22 points, 8.5 rebounds, 2 assists. He's jumped this season from last 7.5 points a game, added nearly 3 rebounds a game, and is shooting the 3 ball at 5.5% better than last season. Is the star of the team. A huge reason as to why this was prior to today's game. They were sitting 6th at 15 and 12, 2.5 games behind first. You know, there's nothing more you could ask from him. And I know from his time with the Bulls, with the Cavs, it was looking like he could almost be a bit of a bust. And I remember we said, is it the situation? Is it him?
Is it injuries?
Is it injuries? What is it? I tell you what, though, he's showing out, and what a career resurgence he's had. I love to see it. It's super fun to watch this Jazz team as a whole, and he is leading it. So I could have very easily gone SGA, but I've given it Markkinen the nod.
That's a really good pick, and I think he's proven a lot of people wrong.
He has.
It's been so good to see, as you said, his resurgence.
Prove me wrong. I got to give you props, Nick, because some of your early, just out of the blue predictions are great. Namely, I'd say the Giddy one was a pretty high one. I was impressed. I was impressed for quite a while with that one. And now this one,
Dyson Daniels as well.
Yeah,
starting today for the Pelicans.
Double D. And then this one, namely, like you were saying this in the like before the preseason, like when he was bowling over in the Euro League. And I wouldn't have picked it probably because I've never been too high on him, but I don't know how you do it.
Size of head, Nick's head increasing steadily.
More room for a bigger brain, hey?
And I've got just give it to Shea. But give it to him.
Yeah. And just quickly on that, I know last year, and you know, listening to the boys over at No Dunks, and they were talking about it. It's been an award that's now started to trend towards players who are almost in that MVP rank. Like last year, Ja Morant. Okay, he wasn't quite MVP level. He was just about there, but a guy who made that big jump, it's kind of gone from superstar to MVP level, who's getting the jump as opposed from like non-factor to a star. So SGA is certainly it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how good this guy is.
He's one of the most exciting players to watch this season.
He certainly
and he's
is.
only going to improve.
I'll go with my dark horse.
What have you got?
I've got Tyrese Halliburton in there.
So good.
And the only reason I didn't put him one is because he had the opportunity to improve, whereas SGA has just out of the blue had this insurgence of improvement in his game. But yeah, Tyrese Halliburton next year in fantasy, I'd say he's a top 10 pick.
20 and 11 at the moment, leading the league in assists. Even with Sacramento, so high on him. He is a star.
He went through that period of time as well where he didn't have a turnover. I think it was 4 games where he averaged 10 assists per game and didn't have a turnover. That's rare. That doesn't happen.
As a
22 years old.
Yeah.
22 years old. It's very, very similar to early Chris Paul, that kind of 20 and 10 kind of mark.
You know what you're getting from him any given night.
I like it, Lee. I like that pick,
too.
and I like Halliburton. I've gone OJ Anunoby. You fellas spoke about. We spoke about him as a DPOY pick for you and myself, Lee. But showing up on both ends of the floor more so now. You know, he's adding an extra 2 points per game while shooting an additional 3% better from the field. I feel like they can probably unleash him a little bit more on the offensive end, and we've seen that over the last couple of weeks. Nick Nurse giving him more role on that, more leash, should I say, on that end. Loving what he's doing. So he's my dark horse for just as that kind of that two-way player. And as we said, leading the league in steals as well.
In contention for a few awards this year, OG. He's had a good season. A guy who I spoke about last week, who I've been really impressed with, Bol from the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, good.
Dark horse.
Bol, yes.
Bol, get in there.
Yes.
But
String bean.
the only reason I have him as a dark horse as well is because we spoke about last week the Devontae Graham effect. You go from averaging hardly any points and you then averaging about 14 points.
Like it.
And
I like it. I'm glad you said Bol.
I really hope he's in true contention because let's be honest, he was almost out of the league.
He was a bee's dick.
Yeah.
A bee's dick away from being out.
Yes. And now he's been a really solid contributor for the Orlando Magic. So Bol.
I tell you what, were we saying last week he's kind of almost like a Wembanyama light?
Yeah.
Not light literally, but
yeah. He's got the same sort of frame.
Yeah, and that kind of skill set. I'm loving watching him. Despite the Magic kind of sucking and losing a heap of games, like Banchero, Bol.
Yep.
Fun to watch.
Could you imagine if you're an opposition guard, just say, look, in the scheme of things, a 6'4" guard is still like in comparison to us, just absolute monster. But could you imagine being a 6'4" guard? On transition defense, you've got big Bol, big slender man himself.
Please put him and Wemby together, please.
Oh, Wemby and Bol.
Please.
Now that would be an absolute nightmare for oppositions. But could you imagine just thinking how am I? And the guy's handles are that of a really good guard as well. Like he's got it on a string at times.
Well, it was a couple of months ago now. A few months ago now, going back. And I was speaking to Will Magnay, former NBA player, currently with the Tassie Jack Jumpers.
Yep.
And I shook his hand, having a chat, and I was just looking up the whole time, like when you're in the cinemas in the front row, and he would be short in comparison to like Bol.
Yeah.
Crazy how big these humans are.
Oh.
I tell you what,
Enormous.
imagine pushing them out of the womb.
Christ, Nick.
Jeez, there could be a few C-sections, I reckon.
A couple of C-sections, a couple of them floating around. Hey, Lee, last award. Let's finish strong with the Coach of the Year. What have you got?
I think I'll have the same as Joe Mazzulla.
Right? We're 3 from 3, fellas.
3 for 3.
Yeah. He's just been put in the deep end. He's been asked to take over this championship runner-up team last minute, and look what he's done with them. They're first, not only in their conference, but in the entire league. Joe Mazzulla. Outside
of, say, you've added Brogdon, Rob Williams has gone down. The changes from last year, we were speaking about, or even a little bit further along, the Lakers were a write-off, Celtics were a write-off, the Hornets were flying. Now, with a pretty much unchanged squad, a first-time coach coming in, pretty much thrown in at the 11th hour under, very unfortunate circumstances there. He's thriving.
He's been incredible, hasn't he?
Would you, because I've said him as well, love what he's doing. Dealing with injuries, as we said, Rob Williams, Gallinari. On the offensive end, got the number 1 ranked offense in the league. If you were in the office row and you're expecting Ime Udoka back next season, he didn't go to the Nets. If the Celtics hypothetically win the title this year,
you're sticking with Mazzulla.
You're sticking with
Mazzulla.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is
Big Joe.
Mazzulla's also got, I feel like he's really well and truly got the play. Obviously, when you have this record, you have to have the players buying in, but he's got the playing group well and truly bought into what he's dishing out.
There's a big dark cloud hanging over Udoka when he comes back.
They would have lost all their trust for him.
I think
they wouldn't look at him the same.
I think so.
You couldn't have scripted this any better for his transition to go. You can't make this stuff up.
Oh, he's been incredible.
Who's your dark horse in that case, Ro?
My dark horse. Now, at the start of the season, you would have said to me...
I hope we got the same one.
I think we all do.
If you would have said to me, look, Sacramento Kings coach might be in contention for dark horse, I would have been walking out of the room and not coming back. But Mike Brown, I'll tell you what.
Big win over the Cavs today as well.
Big win. And at the moment, the Sacramento Kings, what is going on in Sacramento?
Light the beam.
5th in the West.
Get the beam on, boys.
Get the beam up. I can't believe how impressive they've been thus far this season. They're a dark horse.
Great.
If the Sacramento Kings can somewhat continue their performances so far this season. But
will they?
That's the big question.
They've given for so many years now.
Yeah,
there's been no hope there.
Yeah,
they've been given a little bit of hope.
A little glimpse.
But what did Bain say? The Dark Knight Rises. There can be no real suffering without hope.
Yes.
There
Yep.
you
Something
go,
like that.
The
Yep.
smoke rises. Yes, but can they keep this going? Is there a big enough sample size now to believe that they can continue?
So 14-10 record at the moment, considerably early days, I would say.
Yep.
But I think we've already seen real signs of improvement so far for Sacramento Kings, and as I said, if they continue this somewhat, like I don't expect them to finish 5th at the end of the regular season in the West.
Playing would be,
but if they're in,
playing would be a great result.
Yeah, he would be in contention. He would have to be.
On paper, they've ever since they got Sabonis, they don't have a terrible team.
Yeah,
They're not great by any means, but like you'd compare them probably to like the Wizards with Kristaps Porzingis and Bradley Beal.
Could we have given a bit more love to Keegan Murray? Do you think in the Rookie of the Year?
He's been
good.
Been solid.
18 points, I believe, today. And
he's doing exactly what I expected. I heard everyone saying he's the most league ready. And he looks it.
He looks good. Who do you have, Leighton?
I had Will Hardy. The Utah Jazz coach.
Yeah.
The ability to just string these guys together, let them go on the court and, play to their full potential, especially Lauri Markkanen.
Started like a house on fire, didn't they? They've cooled down a little bit, went down again today to the Timberwolves, but still a plus 500 record.
I mean, you look at that, you look at the players on that team before the season starts and you say, how am I going to make this work?
Band of misfits.
How do I make this work? It's just a bunch of all right mid and some good players thrown in the mix. And they've fallen off a bit, but if they hadn't, he probably would have been my number one.
Yeah.
It's somewhat the same story with the Kings, though, I think, in that they probably weren't expected to perform anywhere near as well as they have this season. But even if they finish around that play-in spot, playoffs spot, I think he would certainly be in contention.
Well, let's go with 3 different ones. I've gone with, of the Indiana Pacers, Rick Carlisle. The Pacers beating the Wizards today to improve to 14-12. Currently sitting 5th in the East. Unbelievable. Who would have picked this? The expectations heading into the season were 0. I had 0. I feel like I'd have to check my notes, but I think I might have had them just about goddamn last.
Yeah, it's not surprising either.
Yeah, Carlisle has them within the top. Well, they're fifth in the East at the moment. Incredible.
Wow.
Tremendous output from rookies Benedict Mathurin and Andrew Nembhard.
Yes.
I tell you what.
What did he have the other day?
That 3 he had against the Lakers the other day will just forever be etched in my mind. The buzzer beater.
Did he not have like 40 points?
Yeah, he had a massive game. I think Turner was out. Who else? They had a couple out. Halliburton was out.
TJ out.
Yep. And stepped up big time. But I think now the question will be, can they sustain this? Yep, maybe. Or do they still look to trade Hill, Turner, and see what they can become with this iteration with the team, with the rookies getting a bit more experience? Which way do they go? It's a funny predicament because
good question.
If they had have kind of stunk it up to begin with, no worries.
No brainer.
The decision's made, but they're in a funny position, the Indiana Pacers. But I tell you what a fun watch they are as well. Bud lighting it up. Miles Turner playing tremendous. Halliburton on a scoring side and assisting, leading the league in assists. Really fun watch.
Geez, their rebuild's looking good.
It is, isn't it?
It's happened a lot quicker than you would have anticipated as well. I thought they'd be hanging around that bottom 3 position in the East for a little while.
I think they should have, because if you had somehow won the Wemby Stakes and you're pairing Wemby with Halliburton, Mathurin, Nembhard, if Turner stays on, like if they had just bottomed out for this year, I think it might have served them better.
But it's such a bad culture if you just tank.
It is.
I think tanking is a bad culture. What are you going to tell Halliburton? Don't go out there and get triple doubles. Just play like dog poo. Yeah, well, you can't say that.
Tough sell.
As a coach, you can't say that.
I'm glad the Spurs have got into order with their tank, though. Like I tell you what, they were playing a bit too good for what they were
about to. If they had lost, pardon me, to the Rockets yesterday in the bottom of the West, it would have been a 12-game losing streak, and I think their worst losing streak in 34 years.
Yes. Pop's not used to that.
So they somehow eked out the win there, but they've embraced it with
and so they should.
aplomb.
Gee, so they should.
Fellas, I tell you what, there we go. There's we're about a third, give or take, through the season at the moment. We thought we'd touch base on all the major awards. A lot to come out of it. A lot of different selections coming to the forefront. As we always say, let us know what you think of not only our front runners, but our dark horses as well. We love talking ball with you guys and hearing your thoughts on what we got right and what we got wrong. Lads, I tell you what, the Christmas spirit is starting to fill the room, isn't it? A big couple of weeks. And
Just around the corner.
2 weeks tomorrow till the big man slides his fat ass down the chimney.
Are you looking forward to your annual Christmas afternoon nap?
I certainly
that you're
am.
renowned for.
Yeah. I've got it all set. Big lunch, couple of beverages, and
out like a light.
Tucker out.
Yep.
Gear myself up to carry on into the night. That's a recipe.
You're all
for
about
success.
the long game, aren't you?
Yeah, you're more of a just keep it pretty consistent throughout the day.
Pretty even. But I like that you've got your own style come Christmas Day.
Lee, how do you ride the waves with me, or are you more of a smooth
In terms
sailor?
of naps, no, I don't have a Christmas nap.
Oh, you go hard early, kind of mellow out in the middle.
No,
and
it's
then bring it home
you
strong.
just go to Christmas. I don't go hard. What do you mean by going hard? Like eating or drinking?
The whole lot.
No, I'm average then. I just treat it like another day.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. It's the most magical time of the year. But nevertheless, guys, we've got a big couple of weeks coming up. We'll start to probably transition to more of a Christmas-themed show over the next couple of weeks. Probably next week, we're just mapping out what the plan is. But the week later, we'll probably do a mailbag episode just to bring in the Christmas. So be sure to get your questions into us. We'll start putting some things up over the course of the next week and a bit. We'd certainly love to hear from you guys, basketball related, non-basketball related. Hit us up, guys, as well as tuning in. We'll have our NBL show dropping next Tuesday night, bringing you all the latest news from around the league on that front. A lot to look forward to there. Guys, anything else you want to impart, any wisdom you want to share before we wrap her up?
Not from me.
I tell you what, you've just mentioned the mailbag episode next week. Long overdue in my mind.
It's long overdue.
That used to be a regular part of our season. I think I'm very looking forward to having that back.
Lock that in. Lock it in, Eddie. That's that one's a go. So that'll be not next week, the week following. That'll be Christmas Eve.
Yes.
Jeez. All right.
So no better excuse to a bit of Sweet Tin music and open up the sack.
Sweet Tin music.
Guys,
Good
beautiful.
stuff.
We will wrap it up there. Thank you once again for joining us. Be sure to like, subscribe wherever you listen to the show, as well as following all of our socials. And we can't wait to talk to you next week. See you later.